Have you ever looked at a world map or the day's headlines and just thought, how did we get here? Well, that's what we're going to dive into. We're taking a quick trip through the history of international relations to connect the dots and see how our modern world was built. I mean, really think about that question. How did we go from these vast, scattered empires to a global stage with over 190 countries all interacting, competing, and cooperating with each other every single day? It's a heck of a story. So, first things first, why are we even looking back? Because to understand today, you have to understand yesterday. History isn't just some dusty old book on a shelf, it's the operating system running in the background of our world right now. What we're talking about is international relations, or IR for short. It's really just the study of how all these countries and global players get along, or don't. It's a massive game of power, diplomacy, and trade, but the one thing that shapes every single move, you guessed it, history. You see, history is an active force. It's the reason for old grudges between nations, and it fuels modern ambitions. It's the playbook for diplomatic deals and the very foundation of the global society we live in today. It's not just the past, it's the present. Okay, so let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to the moment the world system we know today really started to take shape. This is the origin story of the modern state. For most of human history, the world was this messy patchwork of empires with fuzzy borders. But then, in 1648, a single treaty, the Peace of Westphalia, changed everything. It introduced a game-changing idea called sovereignty. Basically, it meant what happens inside your borders is your own business. And just like that, the modern state system was born. Fast forward to the 19th century, and two more powerful ideas hit the scene. Nationalism, this belief that people with a shared culture should have their own country, and colonialism, which saw European powers carve up the rest of the world. The map was being redrawn, often violently. Now, as we roll into the 20th century, this whole system of states was about to be put through the ultimate stress test. We're talking about a period of unbelievable conflict, but also a time that sparked some of the most ambitious attempts at global cooperation ever. World War I was a catastrophe on a scale nobody could have imagined. It was so brutal, so devastating, that people called it the war to end all wars. There was this desperate global hunger to create something, anything, that could stop humanity from ever doing that to itself again. The first try was the League of Nations. A really noble idea for sure, but it just didn't work. Some of the world's biggest players never even joined, and it had no real teeth. So, after the absolute horror of a Second World War, the world tried again. This time, they built the United Nations, an organization designed from the ground up to learn from all the League's mistakes. And the UN's mission was way bigger. We're not just talking about preventing wars, though that was key. It was also tasked with protecting human rights, delivering aid, promoting development, the whole shebang. It was a much bolder vision for how the world could work together. But here's the twist. Right as the UN was getting started, the world wasn't coming together. It was splitting in two. The end of World War II didn't lead to peace. It kicked off a new kind of struggle, the Cold War. Suddenly, the world was bipolar. In one corner, you had the Western Bloc, led by the United States, pushing capitalism and democracy, all under the military umbrella of NATO. And in the other corner, you had the Eastern Bloc, led by the Soviet Union, pushing communism with its own military alliance, the Warsaw Pact. For almost half a century, this standoff defined, well, everything. But hang on, not everybody wanted to pick a side. As colonialism finally collapsed, dozens of new countries in Africa and Asia emerged onto the world stage, and a lot of them looked at this US-Soviet rivalry and said, no thank you. They started what was called the non-aligned movement, a third world, determined to carve out its own destiny. And that, more or less, brings us to the modern era, because when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the story didn't end. It just opened up a brand new, way more complicated chapter. Yeah, a lot of people thought that was it, that history was over. But it wasn't that simple. Instead of a clear, two-sided world, we got a new international order that was messy, unpredictable, and had a whole new set of rules, and a lot of new players. So what does this new order look like? Well, the old East-West rivalry was replaced by a tangled web of new relationships. You've got the North-South conversation between richer and poorer nations. You have the rise of powerful regional clubs like the European Union. And maybe most importantly, you see more and more South-South cooperation, where developing nations are teaming up and trading with each other, completely outside the old power structures. It's a real game changer. Of course, this new world has new problems. There's the paradox of power, the fact that even the most powerful country on Earth can't solve global warming or a pandemic on its own. We see a growing divide between stable zones of peace and chaotic zones of turmoil, and we all feel that constant tension, right? The pull of a connected global world versus the urge to protect our own national identity. So from the very first states to today's hyper-connected, chaotic world, the rules of the game are always changing. Understanding that long story is really the only way we can make sense of what's happening right now, which leaves us with one big question. What comes next? What forces are going to write the next chapter of our global story?